Welcome to the Dream Life is Real Life podcast with your host, Hannah Hermanson, bringing you real-life stories of people who realized their dreams to educate and inspire you to create your legacy of abundance now.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, I am with Nicole Middleton and special guest, her son, Jackson.
Hey.
So just to give you guys a quick bio of Nicole, she is a lifestyle designer, a fearless self-explorer, an empowered freedom mentor, and a transformational coach. Her mission is to be the spark that initiates change, helps transform lives, and creates abundance. She's committed to awakening the brave part of our soul and knows that there is so much potential for this life. So she loves setting her clients on a course of self-discovery and alignment so that they can ignite that fire within them and live a life in service of those flames. She believes it is our duty to live at our fullest potential and flame on so hot that we light the way for fellow independent spirits to find their way to. One by one together, we start a movement of people who live to light people up. And she calls this the Wildfire Movement. Welcome, Nicole and Jackson.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So I often like to ask guests that I know are far away from me, where in the world are you talking to us from today?
I'm talking to you from Wellington, New Zealand. It's a beautiful day.
It's a dream location of mine.
Yeah, it's stunning.
Yes, but you haven't always lived in New Zealand. So what brought you to living in New Zealand and starting this wildfire movement that you move clients through? Tell us your story.
Okay, so my story, Hannah, I'll take you way back. It's kind of a story of my life. But basically, all the way back, as far as I can remember, I've always noticed other people that had this plan for their lives, like, 10-year-olds that knew they wanted to be lawyers or doctors, or they wanted to grow up to be a certain thing. And I've never really had that. Or maybe I did, but I wanted to be a veterinarian for a week. And then the next week I wanted to be something else. I wanted to be an astronaut or, anything that I could think of. I had these grand visions for my life, but they would change so very often. I'd never really stayed in one little spot. And I kind of admired all the people that had these set plans and that knew exactly what they wanted to do. And I always envied how they knew what they wanted to do at such a young age, which kind of let me go on a discovery tour for myself on experimenting with a whole lot of different things that I wanted to do. But as I grew up, I kind of lost that discovering part of myself, and I just listened to the world around me, people saying what I should do, what I should study, for various reasons, like don't study music because you'll never make money, do this because that's where the money is, or that's where you'll get a job. And when I left school, that's exactly what I did. I chose something because of what people said I should do and where the money would lie, rather than setting a course on discovery and figuring it out for myself. So that's way back into high school. It's not that far away. It was about 10 years ago. A little bit scary, but yeah. That far back, I decided to be a travel agent because I love to travel. Now, it's all very well becoming a travel agent, but in my field, I didn't really get to travel. So I sat there behind a desk sending people on these amazing journeys that I would create. And I sent them off onto the journey, and I just watched them go. I watched them come back telling me how amazing it was and thanking me for creating this dream scenario for them. And it started to crush my soul a little bit.
I was going to say, ouch.
Yeah. So, not even a little bit. It crushed my soul quite a bit. And the one thing that got me through was the people that I worked with. And I started to realize that I'm definitely a people's person. So I really love working with people, figuring out how they tick and understanding them. And I think that's why I did so well being a travel agent, because people would come in and say, this is what they wanted. And I would look at them and go, I know you think you know what you want, but I know what you need. And I'd send them off onto this adventure. So I love that part of it, but I also wanted to be going off on those adventures. So one day I decided I'm going to go work on the cruise ships, and I packed my bags and I got traveling. And that was an incredible experience. And I think that opened me up to the world and what's out there. And I traveled to amazing places, from Mexico to Brazil, Chile, amazing, beautiful places. And I think that's what started to light the fire within me. But I think the problem was that, you always think you need to come back to reality. So after the 10 months of me traveling, I had to come home, and it's a case of, okay, well, now you need to get back to reality. You need to get a job. You need to do this. Settle down was the general theme of what I needed to do, apparently. And I started to do that. I mean, I got back together with a boyfriend. You kind of needed to start settling down and getting the house and the car and the baby and all that stuff. And I got the same job that I had when I left, the same job that was killing my soul.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think going back into that situation after doing the stuff that really lights your soul up, it's really such a huge contrast. And when you do that, you can see such a change in yourself.
You can never not know what it's like to be in alignment or on fire. Yeah.
So when I got back, I said to myself, no, this can't be it. I can't live this life. This is just, it's just not for me. I mean, there were people that I was working with that absolutely loved being a travel agent. I mean, one day someone was just working away at their desk and they were just on fire, and they were doing quotes and talking to people and, just really loving it. And she turned around and she literally said, oh my God, I love my job. And I was like, wow, that's what I want. And this is not it for me. So I think my journey was about discovering that and acknowledging that, some people love things and those things aren't for me, and I need to find what is it that lights me up. So, I kind of went on this discovery for myself. I decided to become a manager of the travel agency in a different branch. I thought maybe that, getting a little bit more successful would help me. That maybe would, get me excited about the job. It didn't. It really didn't. I just started working with people that I didn't really like. So it made the job even worse. And what happened was I just became really, really upset. I would go home crying every night. I would complain to my parents and my boyfriend. And one day I had a bit of a hard day at work where one of the managers was taking her bad day out on me. And I quit. And that's something that you shouldn't really do when you're in a job. And I came home and everyone was like, you can't just do that. You can't just quit. You need the money. And I was thinking to myself, in that moment, I was so confident, and I was saying, I don't need that job. There's so much more to life than sitting in a job that I hate with people that I don't like. And listening to higher ups shout at me for no reason for something that I didn't even do wrong. And I sat and I looked at my life and I said, what am I doing here? If I died tomorrow, is this the life that I want to live? And I've always tried to listen to that line. And it's been a bit of a tightrope walk between, if I die tomorrow, what life am I living? And okay, we do need to plan a little bit and do need to have a little bit of structure. So there's always been that little juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Between those two feelings. And I always think I tend to lean over to the side of, if I die tomorrow, what is the life I'm living? so yeah, that's basically the beginning of my story and the passion behind me searching for what is right for me. And it took me a while to get there. I mean, I went back and forth traveling, and eventually I said to my partner, let's, your dad lives in the States. Let's go there. Let's go live in the States. And we jumped from the States, and we lived there for a couple of months, and then we ended up in New Zealand. And now that we're in New Zealand, I have this insatiable curiosity for life. So I want to experiment with everything. And I used to think that was a real problem. I used to think, that I was a flake, and I would start something and not really like it. So I'd start something else and start something else. And I used to think this was a big problem, but it turns out it's not. It turns out that is my personality, and I need to try something before I can figure it out if it's for me or not. So I've embraced that, and I've really tried absolutely everything that I think is interesting. So anything that I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool, I try it out. I buy the course. I go on that adventure. I just do it, because that's the only way I can see, is this for me or is it not for me? And I've managed to do a couple of really awesome things, like, let's go bungee jumping, because why not? And I encourage people to do that, to go on these little adventures, these little discoveries with themselves, so that they can figure out what is for them and what is not for them.
Yeah, experiential learning. Wow.
Yes,
Just
yes.
So many nuggets already that I want to dive deeper into. But one of the things I'm hearing is this decision that you've made because you tried the conventional route. You tried to do what everyone thought you should. You even took the manager job. And there's that feeling that you just can't quiet. That's like, if I die tomorrow, like, is this it? And I think that happens so often. And I think it's rare for people to break from tradition. But like you said, it's not like an overnight thing. It's not easy. But I remember when I quit my job, probably similar. I got a lot of reactions that was like, you can't just do that. But I have one aunt in particular that I was telling, like, yeah, I quit. I want to go traveling. I want to do my own thing. I need to figure out what my next move is. She looked at me and she was like, I wake up every day wondering, how did I get here? And you wake up probably thinking, how do I get here? Asking ourselves the same questions, but having a different emotion and a different decision behind those questions, I think is what differentiates those people who live their dream life and the people that sit back and wonder how others are doing it. So I want to talk a little bit now about what, okay, so you quit your job, you commit to experimentation, you commit to living a life on fire, but what are some of those steps or those actions you had to take to give yourself permission to be experiential and to chase your dreams? What was that process like for you? And maybe what are things other people could do?
I think one of the main things is with the experimentation, you need to figure out what you don't want. I think that's the quickest way to, just give me 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're experimenting with a whole nother element of life now in your new motherhood.
Yeah, he's gorgeous. He's just got a little bit of a cold. So he's a Mr. Grump. He's Mr. Grumpy. I think, figuring out what you don't want and what is not you is probably the easiest way to determine what is you, because there's so much out there that you really struggle to go, okay, well, what is it that I want to do with my life, and what is my purpose, and what is my mission, and who am I, and all these big questions. And it starts to get a little bit easier when you say to yourself, well, who am I not? And once you start figuring out who you're not, the who are you question starts to become a little bit clearer. And I think that's what I started to do. And I kind of figured out, okay, that I'm not a travel agent, but I am a people person. I'm not a conservative person that wants to sit behind a desk. But I do want to nurture people, and I do want to help people below me. Like, for instance, the novices that used to come into the business, I used to train them up, and I loved that part of the job. I used to teach them how to deal with the clients and what questions to ask and how to interact and how best to do their job. I loved that part of it. How to make them the best they could be in the job. And when I started to look back on my life, I realized, okay, great, I'm not a travel agent, but I am a mentor. And I love that. And I think that's one of the best ways to figure these things out, is figure out what you're not. And that could be really easy in terms of just getting a little bit of a journal. That's really helped me is writing a question down and sitting there in the morning with a cup of tea and write down the things that you think you're not. And then take another 5 minutes and go, okay, well, if that's what I'm not, then maybe I can figure out, I'll get closer to the question of who I am or what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one of the things that I worked on.
Yeah, I think it is just natural to be able to think of what you don't like, what's hard, what's frustrating, those unfortunately strong negative emotions, but to use those to your advantage and journal them out and then look at, well, what does that mean? If you're not a travel agent, you are a people person. I love that exercise. And I think it's really powerful for, people who are navigating what is it they really want to do. And I love that you get pen and paper and tea, and you don't compare or research what everyone else is doing or what's possible or how do I know, just like really getting clear on who it is you are. I love that exercise.
It's super easy to do that as well, to compare. I mean, being a travel agent, I naturally followed all the Instagrammers and Facebook people that travel. And all these amazing people that are living in Bali, and they're traveling constantly. And at one point in my life, I thought that's what I wanted. But, because when I was maybe 22, I kind of sat there and I sat with one of my friends, and I had a little bit of a breakdown. And I said, I don't think that this is enough for me, this getting the husband and the child and the house, and that can't be all there is to life. Maybe I was a little bit older, maybe I was about 24, 25. But I sat there and I was really upset. I was like, that can't be it. And now that I've got the husband and the kid and the house, it's all okay, but it's okay for one reason. And that's because I know what I want to do with myself. I've got a purpose. I've got a mission. And my mission is to help other people feel this feeling. So it's not actually the external that makes you feel like this. I think if I hadn't figured out what my purpose is on this planet, I would have the house and the kid and the job, and I'd feel really lost. I'd feel disconnected. And I'd feel pretty stuck in my world, because I'd be looking at Instagram and I'd look at all these people traveling and living in Bali, and then packing up 3 months later and going to live in Australia or wherever they're going. And I would look at that and I'd feel really sad that wasn't my life. But now, because I figured out what lights me up inside, I can sit here with my kid and have an amazing time in my house and feel incredible, because I know that those external factors are not what's making the difference. It's something internal, and that's what I live by. It's living inside out. So you need to find that something that lights you up. And that's what you use. It's nothing external. So when I was 24 and I thought, okay, I need that life can't be it with the house and the kid and the husband. It's not it. And so much more than that. But it's about the inside. It's what's going on inside you. And that's what we need to figure out. And I think if we can get everyone to figure that out, we, would eliminate depression on the planet.
Yeah,
no one would be depressed.
That is such a wise sentiment. I was just having another conversation with a client actually who was unclear on what her goals were. And it was like, okay, well, everyone's becoming a 6-figure coach, or everyone's becoming a digital nomad, or like my boyfriend and I are getting serious. Like, do I want to get married? Like we have all of these examples. And I think it's beautiful in this day and age that you can live your life in a million different ways. And we're not all just, the Cleaver family or doing the same thing, but it leads to a lot of overwhelm. And I love this sentiment that you're sharing, which is if you get clear on you, who you are, what your purpose is, it actually doesn't matter what dream you chase, because you'll always have that sense and that light inside of you. And if you can foster that and appreciate that, no matter what situation you're in, whether you're running a business or teaching a class or being a mother, like having that sense of purpose is so grounding.
Yeah. And it's difficult. I mean, you do need to take those moments for yourself. I mean, even now, having figured this all out, I mean, it literally was an aha moment. I was like, wow. And it was like a part in a movie where the person's mind just explodes. It was just this feeling of, it's so simple yet so profound. And it just took someone asking me. I was having a conversation with a friend and talking about what I was doing, and I was about to become a social media manager, and I was doing it because that was the thing to do. I wanted to work digitally, and that was the thing. I was like, okay, I'm going to become a social media manager, and then maybe one day it'll lead me into coaching people and helping people figure out what they wanted to do in their lives. And my friend said to me, but it sounds like you really want to help people. So why don't you just do that? And I was like, okay, that makes so much sense. Why am I doing all this other stuff when I should just start with the basis of that's what I want to do. So just do it. Yeah. And that's what led me right here today in being having a coaching business, and really setting myself on a course to help people one by one figure out what that light inside them is, and how to grow it, and how to really show the world who they are.
Amazing. Yeah, super inspiring. And so what I want to do now, we've learned a lot about your story here, but I think it's time to transition into our pop quiz round. You said you were in high school not that long ago, so I'm sure you'll do fine on the pop. But 3 last questions for you.
Yeah.
And the first one is, oh no.
It's okay.
My first question is, what is one thing that listeners can do today to help get them closer to their dream life? What's an action or exercise you recommend people do today?
Journaling. This is definitely something that's helped me. I think you need to take, even if it's 5 minutes for yourself. I find this time, it's really difficult. My baby is 4 months old. He's amazing. But sometimes it's difficult to just have that moment to yourself, just to reflect on who you are, what you want to do the next day, never mind the rest of your life, just the next day. You need to actually think about these things and set the intention. Otherwise, your life just runs away and you look back and go, oh my God, it's almost November. What have I done with my year?
Yeah, you wake up with like, how did I get here? Going back to that sentiment. So true.
Exactly. So you need to find 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long that you've got to literally just sit, breathe, and have a little think of what intention you want to set for the day, for the week, for the year, and have a little session with yourself and really feel the love inside. I mean, it sounds really hippy dippy, and I am a little bit hippy dippy. It feels so good.
Yeah.
And when you start having those little moments, I mean, I find them now. I have the bath with my son, and my husband takes him and starts getting him dressed, and I sink my head under the water, and it's quiet, and I take 5 minutes before I get out of the bath, and I just connect with myself, and I have a little bit of gratitude for whatever happened in that day, and I have a little bit of a gratitude moment, and then I think what I want for the next day, the next week. And then I get out and I feel refreshed from that 5 or 10 minutes, just having that moment to myself. I feel refreshed. And then if you can go and write a couple of things down, it's amazing what happens. And even for anyone who's never written a word in a journal ever, if you put that pen to paper, it just flows. I mean, someone gave me a little bit of advice to just do a brain dump. And the brain dump is literally anything that pops into your head, you write it down, whether it's the shopping list, whether it's, there's clouds outside that I can see right now. You can start writing. And once you start writing, more information just starts flowing. And then it starts to get a little bit deeper on how you feel, what you want out of life. And it just starts coming. And then you can start looking back on that and reflecting. And it's amazing what you start to see and how much more information comes from within. So that's definitely an exercise that I can recommend.
Yes. Bathe in your intentions and then put pen to paper.
Exactly.
Amazing. All right. Question number 2 is, what is a tangible resource, whether it's a book or a podcast? I don't know. What is something that you would recommend people getting their hands on? Maybe it's something that really changed your life that you would just give out as a gift to everyone if you could. What would that be?
When it comes to books, I'm obsessed. Wow. I really think, if you can read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, that one is a really, really great thing about searching for who you are and what it is you want to do in your life. And it's such an easy read. And it's a little story. So there's a lot of metaphors in there. It's one book that I can recommend you read over and over and over, and try and get it in a hard copy. Don't download it onto your Kindle. I've got a Kindle, but you need a copy of this so that you read it. You can highlight, you take it with you everywhere you go. And another great thing is what you can do is actually take it every time you go on holiday, because every single time you read this book, you'll pick up on a new thing, and get a little bit more inspiring information from it, because you can interpret it in so many different ways. So it'll mean so much more to different people on different levels. You'll never discuss this book with someone and it means exactly the same thing, which I find incredible. So that's definitely a book that you should read. And the other thing is the podcasts, definitely. Find a podcast or 10 that you enjoy listening to, because it's really easy to sit down in the day and put the TV on. But what I can recommend is just putting a podcast on instead and do things that you need to get done. So you're keeping active, but you're listening to inspiring people as well.
Beautiful. Yes.
You can really pick up on a lot of great information and a lot of inspiration from that.
So much goodness to be consumed. Yeah, I totally agree. Final question, Nicole.
Yeah.
Where can people stay connected with you and learn more about what you do?
Okay, so I've got a link tree, which is probably the easiest way to find me. But I'm very much on Instagram. I love my Instagram at the moment because I'm a little obsessed with my boy. That's what you're going to be finding. You'll see him. You'll get to meet him. He's not normally this grumpy. Sorry, guys. He's got a bit of a cold. But you'll see my life, which I think is really incredible at the moment. You can give your own opinion. But there's a lot of, on my stories, I like to share a lot of inspiration that I find, like quotes and just real mindset things that just get you thinking. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, you'll find me at the_y_child. The Y child was taken, damn it. But yeah, at the Y child with underscores. And in there, if you go onto my Instagram, you'll find a link tree to my Facebook page, my Facebook group, and you can book a call with me if you like on that link as well. So really simple, just find me on Instagram. But yeah, that's where you'll find me.
Such a great invitation to really connect with Nicole on Instagram, the_Y_child, the Y child. And when folks give you the invitation to connect with them on the phone, that's always an opportunity to seize. Yeah. So I encourage you all to connect with Nicole and Jackson and the wildfire movement and all the great things happening over there in New Zealand. So, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope Jackson feels better soon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, listeners, we'll be back next week with another inspiring guest to help you make your dream life your real life.
You've been learning how to make your dream life your real life with Hannah Hermanson. To get the resources mentioned on today's show and to listen to past episodes, visit www.dreamlifeisreallife.com.